Welcome to ADHD What Now, where we talk about holistic, as in whole person and whole family, support for bodies, brains, skills, and relationships when a child has ADHD. My name is Veronica Hunter, your hostess, and today we're going to speak with Dr. Varleisha Gibbs, who is one of my favorite occupational therapists.
So I am an occupational therapist, a proud occupational therapist, and also one that loves to work with families and interdisciplinary, right, with other professionals. I say professionals because it's not all healthcare, right? We have our teachers and people in the community that we work with. And so that's the wonderful thing about occupational therapy. And so for my career, I started off with a degree in psychology, not really knowing what I wanted to do, and then found occupational therapy, or it found me, and continued on with my education, master's, doctorate of occupational therapy, and a PhD in health sciences. And now I am the vice president of practice engagement and capacity building at the American Occupational Therapy Association. So, of course, this interview, I'm speaking on my behalf and not wearing that hat, but I do think it's important for me to mention because I am also happy and proud to be in that role to help others, nationally, not just our OT community, but parents and our stakeholders and consumers of services. And I decided to go into this profession and to do this work partially because of personal stories. I grew up with different ailments and didn't realize until I was an adult that I actually had occupational therapy services. And I have rheumatoid arthritis and celiac disease. So a lot of different gut issues, and seeing how that plays a role in our behavior, our attention, our focus, and knowing that I don't know if this is the reason why I was, let's say, blessed with these ailments, so that I could better understand our children and to advocate for them on that level, that it's whole body that we need to be addressing. It's wonderful, right, to have talk therapy. It's wonderful to, of course, if you have communication concerns, speech therapy. We have to work on the whole body and work together as a team. And that's really the message that I try to promote. And as a therapist, occupational therapist, we can go in a gamut of directions. For me, it all started with the umbrella of neuroscience, neuroanatomy, and understanding that really most of what we talk about, whether it's dementia, autism, ADHD, whatever, anxiety, trauma, which is my latest work is on trauma, it all stems from what happens neurologically. And that's just a passion of mine. I just love the brain. So that's my focus.
I read one of your earlier books on mindfulness and self-regulation, and it was so incredibly helpful. The summary that you gave of the brain and neuroscience, and then going into how does that show up in life and what we can actually do about it, and providing practical tools to do about it, which is one of the reasons I thought this is you are the perfect person to answer this question then, of what are the red flags that we look for and how do we know where to start to get help, because that idea of whole body is really important, and sometimes I feel like I've observed it being missed. So to get into that idea, then if I'm a parent and all I know is that my child is having difficulty in school, is having challenging with friend relationships, is hyperactive, is all the symptoms of ADHD, and I'm looking to know, what do I do to start, or what are some of the red flags that would help me to know where to begin helping this child? What is your recommendation there?
Mm-hmm. And you had a quote there, right, that we were talking about from my earlier work that I think speaks to that. And I would say, looking at the red flags, they run the gamut, right? So for one, we need to trust your intuition. I would say start there. Caregivers, parents, mothers, fathers, your instincts, your intuition. It's very important because usually you'll pick up on something, right? And something's not quite, I don't know, it's not quite right. Or should this be a concern? And you take it to your healthcare provider, and perhaps they give you validation, or they tell you, give it time. allow them to, let's see if they grow out of this. And that feels good to hear, right? Because no one wants to hear that something's quote unquote wrong with their child. So you take that and you're like, okay, fine. Meanwhile, it's still lurking in the background, right? So I would say really be an advocate for yourself and for your child and say, I appreciate that, but I do have a significant concern. And it starts with true evaluation and assessment, usually by a specialist. So request that. No offense to our generalists, our pediatricians, but if there's a significant concern that you have, you can request to go to a developmental specialist, pediatrician, psychologist, right? To really dig into what it is, if there's anything. You have the right to do that. Some of the red flags you might see really is, think about looking at everyday activities and how that child is able to navigate it. Eating habits, sleeping habits, they can go the gamut of not eating well, very picky, to overeating, right? Lacking sleep to being extremely lethargic or not sleeping at night and sleeping at school during the day. Aggression, of course, agitation. And so all those things, sensory seeking, sensory avoiding behavior. So prefer going more than just a preference, right? But that it impacts success. It impacts one's ability to complete a task, to engage with other people. So some children they need movement, right? When we talk about senses, it's not just smell and taste and sight, right? But vestibular movement and proprioception, they need input to their body. And so when they're playing with their peers, they're rough, right? And they're slamming themselves against others or the ground or climbing and jumping, really, intense play. And then you have the others that will just rather sit underneath the jungle gym and plug their ears, right? So look at how they engage with other people. And then also sometimes our children work very well in our home environment. It's predictable. They're used to it. How do they interact and respond when they go out in public to new locations and also within the school environment or in the community?
Thank you so much for being here today. Can you share, where can anybody find you online?
So you can find me at drvgibbs.com. So V for Varleisha. And also on social media, Dr. Varleisha on Instagram. It's not too many people with my name. So you can find me on Twitter or Facebook as well. If you just put my name in, and I would love to connect. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here and for elevating the topics and for connecting us with resources and tools that we can use to actually affect actionable change inside of our families for the good of ourselves and our children.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
A great big thank you to Dr. Gibbs for being here today. And in case you were wondering, one of the books that we mentioned, that is hers, is Self-Regulation and Mindfulness. And inside it has one of my favorite explanations of the brain and occupational therapy and sensory systems right in the front of this book. And then the back is filled with all kinds of activities that one can do with kids to promote self-regulation and mindfulness. Enjoy.